This is the second of two videos. The first video looked at the full application form. This second video will look at the feedback we have received from the managing authority on the mistakes people have made in completing full application forms. Some basic errors. The outputs and results tables are not completed correctly. The applicant has missed the deadline. The deadline date is clearly stated in the call specification to which you're responding. The applicant hasn't submitted the financial and outputs annexes, or all the sections of the form have not been completed. Some more basic errors. There is no consistency between the start and end dates in the outline application and your full application. Remember, the start date of your project is when eligible expenditure will be incurred. There needs to be clarity on what is being funded from the total project pot. Don't treat match funding separately. Please make sure you explain any technical terms used in the application. And finally, in the timetable section, please use the format day followed by the month followed by the year. Basic errors. Continued. In section 2.5, use bullet points in your answer. Make sure you understand how your project fits within the relevant ESF or ERDF operational program. Have you thought about an exit strategy? What is going to happen when the ESIF funding stops? If your project is heavily reliant on information technology and software, you must name the supplier and the systems that you intend to use. Procurement. Have you read the procurement guidance? Have you devised a procurement plan? How will you evidence this procurement plan? Sometimes projects fail to confirm that a procurement exercise is underway while their application is being formulated. Have you completed the procurement annexes at the back of the application form correctly? Consistency of information. Have you responded to what the call is asking for? Do the statements in the application match up to the evidence you've provided? Are the sources of the information adequately referenced? Costs and funding 1. For capital projects, have you submitted a cost plan prepared by a quantity surveyor? Does it match with your granular breakdown? Remember, your project budget is the whole eligible funding, that is, ERDF or ESF plus your match funding. Make sure your match funding evidence is complete and not inconsistent. Make sure your finance tables are filled in correctly. And try and ensure that the intervention rate is consistent across the lifetime of the project. Costs and funding 2. Make sure you provide a granular breakdown of costs, particularly for salaries, marketing and other revenue. Make sure it is clear how every part of your budget has been made up. Please make sure all the supporting documents summarised in the checklist at the back of the application are actually submitted. Direct staffing costs or indirect costs. Sometimes applicants fail to explain the roles of individual staff on a project, causing a lack of clarity over whether staff work directly on the project or are an indirect cost. Applicants often include staff working a small proportion of time on a project as direct staffing costs when they should be considered to be an indirect cost and be covered by the flat rate overhead. Staffing cost 2. Make sure the ESIF logo is included on job descriptions and HR letters. Make sure payroll documentation for existing staff using the 1720 hourly rate is supplied. outputs. Are the outputs consistent with the call specification and the indicator definition guidance? Don't add additional output indicators not asked for in the call specification. Make sure you provide a methodology behind the calculation of each output. Governance 1, project management. What skills or experience do project staff have? Who does what? What are the lines of authority and delegation? Management structures. You must include an organogram or structure chart in your application. And as far as claims are concerned, who will process them and who will authorise them? Governance 2, project management. Sometimes projects fail to detail the specific contribution of delivery partners, if relevant. You need to outline the governance or financial management arrangements between lead applicants and delivery partners. If the applicant intends to operate a grant scheme for SMEs, you need to outline the process for awarding grants is transparent and compliant. Risk register capital projects. There are a number of risk issues that you would need to take account of in your full application. These could involve planning issues, health and safety, design, general construction works, noise and dust. State aid. Have you formulated a state aid solution for your project and obtained legal advice to back it up? How will you apply this solution consistently and compliantly? Often, applicants fail to identify that there is a state aid benefits to themselves and their delivery partners rather than focusing on SMEs. If you're using the de minimis regulations, you must explain why you cannot use GBA or the General Block Exemption regulations. Often applicants fail to provide this. Applicants are not aware that de minimis is a more labour-intensive approach than GBA in terms of recording and document retention. And finally, have you supplied a copy of the independent legal advice in respect of state aid with your full application? Documentation. Depending on the scope and scale of your project, there is probably quite a long list of documentation you will need to supply with your full application. This may include land ownership registration documents, planning permissions, other legal consents, a cost plan up to RIBA Stage 3, design details, a BREEAM pre-assessment, environmental impact assessment, a Gantt chart, gender equality plan, and a sustainable development plan. Key messages to summarise. Read the guidance. Be consistent throughout. Pay attention to detail. Get people together who will be working on the project to ensure that there is corporate buy-in. Try and simplify the complex. Mind mapping is one way to do this. Locate and collate all the relevant supporting evidence and reference it accordingly. Check, check, check again, and use a critical friend if necessary to read through your application before it's submitted. And finally, don't underestimate the work involved. If it's an important project for your organisation, you need to throw the proverbial kitchen sink at it in terms of time, effort and resources. When considering applying for ESIF funding, you must always refer to the guidance. Here is the link to the .gov.uk specific guidance. The TAP partnership runs workshops throughout the year, so please visit the TAP website or sign up to our database. The link is on the screen. These bite-sized videos are designed to provide a brief overview of topics associated with ESIF funding. We hope that they have provided you with more insight into the areas you should be considering when thinking about or during the application stage for ESIF. The videos are only a small element of what the Technical Assistance Partnership Project offers, and if you would like to sign up for one of our workshops, Many of the topics from the bite-sized videos will be covered in more detail. Members of the Technical Assistance Partnership can be contacted on the numbers here or via the TAP email address, tap@eastriding.gov.uk. We would welcome your feedback on this bite-sized video and would be grateful if you could fill out a short survey to let us know what you think and help us inform future video content. Please return to the TAP website on the screen where you can click on a link which takes you to the survey.